Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Sumadre production.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lift off and the clock has started.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast. I'm so glad that you're here, whoever you are, if you're listening to this. Today, we are back on track with the novels. We are talking about Arthur C. Clarke's 10th novel, which is called Glide Path. But my co-host today is Amy. Amy, say hello.
Hello.
Amy.
Yeah.
Back when I was creating this podcast, so I recruited my friend Kevin to make the music.
Yep.
And we were just like back and forth because I knew he could make good music, but like he doesn't necessarily make the kind of music like that I need for this podcast. So I was like, I know you can do this, so like I'll give you some influences. This is the sound I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And through like just sending songs back and forth to him, I came to a conclusion at one point. I said to him, dude, like, I think my favorite kind of music at this point right now is music made now that's meant to sound like it was made in the 80s.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because it's the 80s sound, but it has a modern sense of bass.
Right.
Maybe I'm not a musician. Maybe I'm not right about that, but that's the way I feel.
Yeah, it's
about
how you hear it.
So there's this band that I recently discovered a few years ago called Gunship, and that's like their whole MO is just...
Oh, you shared that with me.
Yeah, it's just, it sounds so 80s.
Yes.
And every song lyric is about the 80s. Dude, for instance, I never told you this.
What?
Okay, one of the songs on their... They have two albums. One of their albums, one of the songs is called Tech Noir.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's called that?
Tech Noir, because it's dark.
Well, remember the movie we watched for episode 2?
No, what was
You
it?
referenced it in the episode without me even bringing it up.
Really? What?
It's the club in which
Oh,
the Terminator
yeah.
first meets Sarah Connor.
That's right.
So my point is that band, it's like very referencing the 80s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they're making it with a modern sense of like what we actually think sounds good now.
Yes.
So it's heavy, it's bassy. So one of the things I absolutely love about the movie that we watched is the fucking 80s synth soundtrack.
Oh, it's the best.
Over a World War II film.
I loved it.
Now, this is the kind of thing I feel like I used to not like this kind of thing, but now as movies are getting weirder and wackier and there's different delivery methods for your films and they don't have to be traditional, like I'm so down with it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially because it's sci-fi. It's not really, you can't put that score over Saving Private Ryan.
No.
So...
Wouldn't work.
Exactly. So the movie that we're talking about is Shadow in the Cloud. It came out in 2020. As soon as I saw trailers for it, I was instantly intrigued. I mean, initially I was like, this looks stupid. But I feel like the best movies initially look kind of stupid, you know?
Oh, totally.
You're like, who the fuck thought of this? And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, it's cool because it had to take some maverick to think of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So that movie, I remember thinking like, oh, this looks like an intense World War II movie with like a girl in like a gunner position, and then it was
Right.
like, and then it was called Shadow in the Cloud, and like they mentioned the sci-fi in the trailer, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like what? I gotta see this. This looks crazy. And Chloe Grace Moretz, like she's just great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's just good no matter what.
If we're actually talking about this right now, which we totally can, I loved the movie.
Yeah, I did too.
Like, it was completely ridiculous in so many aspects.
Yeah.
But it also like it, I think it did what it set out to do incredibly well.
So I'm curious about what you have to say, because I know that you texted me and you said that you loved the movie. And like I kind of figured you would.
Yeah.
It's a likable movie, and like I'm fairly familiar with your taste in movies. And I think that there are things about it that are awesome kind of separately,
Yes.
And then
I
as
agree.
a whole, it's like, why are these things together in the same movie? Even though they're done well on their own, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I don't... Okay, well, let's maybe explain. So if you don't know what this movie is, it's called Shadow in the Cloud. Chloe Grace Moretz is the star. The entire the movie is like 83 minutes long. The entire movie is a flight from New Zealand to somewhere else.
Samoa?
Yeah, some other island.
Yeah.
And basically it opens with like a cartoon explaining what a gremlin is, and then it opens with her on an airfield. It's dark on a runway, and she gets on this plane with this document that says that she needs to be on the plane, and she has this package, and like she gets on the plane, and all the men on this plane are justifiably like, you came out of fucking nowhere with this piece of paper and you want to just get on this plane, like we don't know you, like you're a woman, this is World War II, all these things. But she manages to get on because she has a document that says that she has top secret thing under her arm and she needs to be on the flight. So she gets on, they're dicks to her, they tell her to get in the Sperry, which is the little ball under the middle of the plane that has like a turret.
Yeah, like the bottom gunner position.
Yeah, so they shove her in there, and she's very stressed because she needs to hold on to this bag that, you know, like obviously both you and the people in the plane are very curious as to what's in the bag. It's kind of one of the driving forces of the movie. And then while she's under there, all kinds of discussion happens. And the thing to stress is the gimmick is that the whole movie is just the one flight. It's not the only gimmick, but that's like kind of the feel you get. It's just, you're right in the middle of a story, kind of, because you don't know where she came from.
Right. Yeah.
The movie fucking opens with her on a dark runway. It's like, who is this person? But anyway.
Yeah.
Then she can hear them on the radio, and they're talking about her. So there's all the, like, so part of the movie is literally, and that's another thing I realized too, is that there's that whole section where the camera pretty much stays in the Sperry with her.
Yeah.
Once she's in the Sperry, you don't see the men that are in the plane. You just hear them talking.
Yeah, it was so... I thought that was done so incredibly well.
Yes, I agree. But, so, okay, I'll just explain. So then she starts seeing things under the wing.
Yeah.
So then the movie becomes science fiction.
Yeah.
Up to that, it was all about war and, you know, all these... I don't even know what it was about up to then.
Yeah.
Sexism, basically. But sexism during a war.
Yeah.
Like in the 40s. Anyway. So then she starts seeing a creature under the wing.
Yeah.
And she sees that it's like nonchalantly pulling pieces of the airplane off and just like throwing them out the fucking plane. And it's awesome. And it's this big, horrific, probably maybe like 3 or 4 foot tall bat thing. Looks like a bat.
Yeah, looks like a bat.
And so it's like sci-fi, kind of.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know what it is. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
So the movie then becomes kind of, we won't get into too many details, but like it becomes her trying to convince them that she's seeing the gremlin while also fighting it on her own. Oh, and then she has a gun, which she like, it gets to this point with this like build-up action moment where it's like, she like pulls out the gun, and it's like your only option. You got to shoot that thing, but everyone's going to know that you have a gun, and like you shouldn't have a gun,
Right.
And so then you find out she has a gun, and like, is her arm? Her arm isn't really broken, right?
No, it's how she brought the gun in.
Got it. Yeah. So then, should we spoil? I don't think. I think
No,
we
I don't
should,
think it's. I don't think it's necessary. Well, anyway,
because that's one of my
I
problems with
think-
the movie is what's in the bag.
right.
You know?
So I think that, like, the driving force behind all of this is just all of the mystery. Like, when I was watching it, I was just on the edge of my seat. Like, there's so many things going on, like, that you're just like, the whole time you're just like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? Because there's also, like, the fact that, like, she is lying about everything that, you know, like, she comes on, she has a British accent, and then all of a sudden she doesn't have a British accent anymore, you know, and like she has a broken arm, and then all of a sudden she doesn't have a broken arm anymore.
Right.
Like, there are just so many things that are like going on, and it's like I think it's a difficult movie to describe to someone, because if you just say what is going on, you're not like explaining like the feeling, like, because it's the entire thing hinges less on plot than it does on these little gimmicks that really create like an atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, like, and a reaction to like what you're seeing.
Yeah, and I think what the movie devolves, what it becomes, like her whole story, I don't love it. I mean,
no, I don't love it either. So I think it's okay. So the package that she's protecting is her baby.
yeah.
So then you also find out that the other person who created the baby is also on the plane.
Which seems, yeah, like once you realize that the baby exists, everything feels a little coincidental, a little too coincidental.
See, but I don't, I guess so, but I think it's like it makes sense because, I mean, they're all stationed at the same base. Like, that's obviously how they, you know, so like.
True.
And I mean, she probably figured it was like that was the safest flight to hop on because he was on it.
Yeah.
Because obviously what it is she made everything up.
Right.
Yeah, like none
Just
of it.
to get her baby out of the war? I don't even know.
Yeah, and also, well, she's getting out too.
Right.
Because she doesn't want to be, like, labeled.
Oh, like I see. Yeah. The WAAF.
Yeah, and
girl
she'll be
who ends up
right.
getting pregnant.
Yeah, and she'll be, you know, like
ridiculed.
Yeah, I think she'll be like in trouble in general. I mean, it'll just be, you know, messy.
Yeah.
Plus, she's married, and that makes things messy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just messy.
Yeah.
So, like, while all that drama is going on, you've also got the gremlin.
Yeah, so, I mean...
But then also, you also have the, what is it, Japanese?
yes.
The fighter planes have tracked them down. Like, there's so much, like, that goes on.
You're right.
It's
Especially, and then...
crazy.
Yeah, but I almost feel like there's too much going on. Like, in my mind, this movie could be perfect. It's not perfect, and that's okay. Like, movies don't have to be perfect, but it's so close, like, it's almost there. Like,
yeah.
Because it's to the point where because then like a totally separate conflict arises where these guys don't trust her anyway.
Right.
So she's like, I see a Japanese plane. They like don't believe her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your thought process has to switch to like, oh, like there's an actual war going on.
Yeah.
This isn't just about sexism and gremlins.
Right.
They're in fucking war.
Right.
But
or a baby or a relationship or like all the tons of things that are going on.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the whole radio conversation that, like, we've been mentioning sexism, but there's very much a commentary on that. But the other thing I think it's, like, I'm down with that in movies, but I think that those guys, they're just so overly disgusting. Is that the way they were?
I think it's dramatized, but I really, truly think that's the way that they were. I feel like I've seen enough, you know, media of that time that I really think that's the climate. Like it was acceptable to be that way.
Then what explains Glide Path? Like I know that he wasn't in combat, but is that just because Clarke is just such a like not conflict-oriented person? Like, it seems like in Glide Path, it's like everyone's fucking cordial and everyone's nice and, like, you almost forget that there's a goddamn war happening in this novel.
No, see, I think so. I don't think so. I think I think that's Arthur C. Clarke. I don't think it's important to the story. And I think that there is stuff in this story that is definitely the way that it is in the movie.
Okay.
Like, I think it's really bizarre that this movie was chosen, and you chose this without knowing.
Yeah, no.
Like, the correlations between this film and this book are really bizarre. Like, from the minute the movie started and they do the Gremlin cartoon,
right.
I just, like, I had to, like, pause the movie and turn to Mallory and be like, this is weird. Like, I have never encountered that terminology in anywhere.
What, Gremlin?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, dude, me neither.
Like, I mean, like, you know, like the idea, but like, I mean, because like growing up, like there was, you know, like the little man that lived in the house that used to steal things.
I was gonna say that, dude.
Like we grew up with quote unquote a gremlin.
We should explain what gremlins are.
Yeah. Where's the part I had it highlighted where,
dude, and I think that it's funny you say that, dude, because this book and the movie work in tandem, dude, in terms of describing the gremlin, because I love the conversation in the movie that they have where the guy explains, like, when the guy explains, like, dude, gremlins are actually an excuse that people use when they fuck up.
Right. So yeah,
I just love, like, the movie almost explains it better.
Yeah. Like, it's, hold on, where's this page? So chapter 8 starts out explaining the whole thing.
Yeah, read it.
Yeah, it says, hold on. In an experimental unit operating with a single complex and temperamental piece of equipment, there was no such thing as a normal working day. There were uneventful days and there were catastrophic days, but no two were ever quite the same. It all depended on the gremlins. Like abominable snowmen, gremlins have never actually been seen, but nobody who has worked with electronic gear doubts the existence of these mischievous and elusive entities. There are too many malfunctions and failures that can have no other explanation. And then it just goes on to explain, like, you know, like give an example. So you're right. In the book, we're introduced to gremlins as like the unexplainable. But then in the movie, you're right. I love it that it's like, no, it's like gremlins are like, there's always a reason for something. Right. And, it, you know, chances are it's human error. Right. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, and I love when that guy explains it, because it doesn't, in my opinion, work to maybe make you think, in my opinion. I never thought when he said that, oh, maybe she's just, like, not actually seeing that. Because I feel like in some movies that would be a way to make you think, oh, maybe you're not seeing what you think you're seeing.
Yeah, but not.
But no. And with all the other thing that's happening in the movie, you know what my favorite scene is?
What?
And I don't even know why, dude.
What?
Is when the bald guy is, like, trying to fight off the gremlin.
Yeah.
And it's like daylight and she's just like watching it happen.
Yes.
And like I just love how these guys are such assholes and they're so absorbed in like making her feel like a bad person and also like just trying to figure out like, cuz she could very well be the enemy because of all the lying. Yeah. And then they're like, you full of shit. There's no gremlin. Shut up. And then all of a sudden, dude, you're in your airplane and there's a giant bat thing that's fighting you. And it's just like, because at that moment, it's not just that, like, she was lying. Right. It's like, my whole life is a lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there are gremlins.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't know. It's just so cool. Like, I love that moment. Yes. And then when him and the gremlin fall, and the fucking wings come out, and you're like, oh shit! It's like no wonder they live on planes.
I like jumped up when that happened. I was like, what are you kidding me? Like, it's like, because that's what it is. Is it's just like one thing after another in the movie. Like, and I think that's what I really loved about it is that even if it's not all action, it's like. Things are
it's
just
all tension.
Yeah, it's all tension and things are just constantly being revealed and you're just so your mind has to like keep up with like all the things and that's what it is that like the first part of it there's like no real action even though there is some action but like there's no real action. It's like the tension is created in their, you know, with their voices. And then it turns into like real action and you're just like it just like takes you like you have to just like keep up.
Yeah, and it's I think what you're also talking about too is like movie's ability to build tension. And I've talked about this before, and I really don't know the best way to articulate it. But in a movie, you can have like the most ridiculous nonsense ever. But if you properly build from what we know to that, then it becomes not ridiculous. You're kind of there with it.
Yes.
So I think this movie does that pretty well.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Like, as an example, the movie The Mist and the book. Like, at the very end, there's a monster that's so big, they can't even, like, it goes above the clouds. Like, its legs go into the clouds. Yeah. You can't open with that.
No.
You open with mist.
Yes.
You open with actual precipitation.
Yeah.
Then you lead in slowly over hundreds of pages or 2 hours.
Yeah.
You get to giant fucking monster that when
Right.
you see that, you're like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But if you just show me that, it's like, that's something that some artist came up with.
Yeah, totally agreed.
So in this movie, when she's fist fighting
Yeah.
with a gremlin
Yep.
on the ground,
Yep.
you're just like, well, the whole thing's been ridiculous.
Right.
And this is just the next step here.
Yeah.
And as far as monsters go, dude, they're good. They're like,
The Gremlin?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, he's good.
I think the most interesting, and I say my favorite part was when they were fighting, just because the music, the cinematography, the build up, all that shit was cool. But what was like more intriguing to me is seeing the gremlin in its natural habitat.
Yeah.
Like, because if the gremlins are gonna fight with people,
Right.
then they won't last.
Right.
You know, like we would find out where they came from and
Yeah.
kill them
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
But like to see them doing what they could have been doing through the entire war if gremlins are real,
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yes.
Like seeing it under the plane,
Yes.
under the wing, and then when they turned, all the shit just started falling out of the hole that it made. You're just like, oh my God. And all her Sperry shit's all falling apart.
Yes.
But at the same time, dude, you're like, she's in this airplane with total dickheads. It's like, maybe they neglected to fix everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the whole time you're watching, like you're saying, you're just wondering, like, what the fuck's going on here?
Right. And back to what you said, like it starts out completely normal and plausible. She's a woman, soldier who's been commissioned to take a very important package. Like you totally like,
It's like a normal yet
It's
slightly edgy World War II movie.
yes. And then it turns into like, what in the hell is going on?
Dude, okay, also, with the ridiculous buildup, makes it not totally silly when the gremlin emerges with the baby.
Right.
And you're like, oh, good Lord. Like, I thought gremlins liked metal
Right.
and fucking with metal.
Yeah.
But it wants that baby?
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
There's only so many options if you're in a plane the entire movie.
Yes.
Might as well show me a gremlin holding a baby under the
Exactly.
wing, and then she's going to fucking monkey bars over
Yes.
there, dude. It's so ridiculous.
It was completely ridiculous. I read an article after I watched it. I was so glad I went into it like not knowing what was up, so I feel bad ruining it, but hopefully everyone stopped.
Maybe I'll do a spoiler alert in the beginning.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But I read and it was described as like pure pulpy fun.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. I mean, with the like just down to like the neon lights,
Oh,
like
yeah.
and the
Dude,
music and the plane and the way that it's performed, like how they do those intros to
Oh,
the
God. They're so
guys.
fucking cool.
Like it's totally awesome.
Dude,
Like
it's so cool.
everything, like that's what it is like it's not, it's like better than a B movie. It's not a B movie, but like it's that's exactly what it is. It's just pulpy, campy fun.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Even like the font. You notice the font
Yes.
of Shadow in the Cloud?
Yes.
It has like it's like the Knives Out font. It's like
Right.
that classic, almost
Totally.
like retro font.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is great. And then back to the correlation between this and the book is one of the things that I find very interesting about the book, and we can get into it, is the treatment of the WAAFs. What do they call them? WAFs?
Yeah.
WAFs?
I don't know
WAF.
what they call them, but
I think it was WAF. And that was one of the first things that stuck out to me when I started reading this book. And just that, like, again, like the treatment of her, like, but then I was thinking about it, like, I don't even think she is a WAF because she's not British. She's American.
I could have swore she said that she was.
Yeah, I know. So I was a little confused, but it's like it doesn't even matter.
Well, the end of
But-
isn't the book? The book is all about giving it to everyone else. So and the other thing with that movie, dude, and I don't blame them for not doing it. I love how there's no mention of a year. It's like, don't worry about what year it was.
Wait, no, I thought there was.
It says something in the beginning about New Zealand. I don't think it says a year.
I thought it said like 43 or something.
Okay, then maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Maybe I'm making that up. I literally have no idea. But just that, like, she's so like badass, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just great. And then like my favorite part, and like I knew like the minute they gave her the baby back at the end, I knew it was gonna happen, and I was so like I jumped up. I was like, oh my god, like
What?
how she just like whips at her boob and feeds the baby.
Oh yeah, that was
Like,
ridiculous.
But it was amazing
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's like this lady like being this like total badass, like, you know, beating the crap out of gremlins and, you know, protecting herself from these like crazy men and, you know,
Right.
whatever. And, you know, but then like it all comes back to like, yeah, but I can make food with my body.
Right.
Like it's just like, and it wasn't even like about like I don't know. It was just so great. It was just
Yeah.
like feminism, like,
Well, what I do love about it, and what
Amazing.
what it does better than other stories that try to hype that type of thing,
Yeah.
is that the man is useless.
right.
Like
Right.
she's like, I already know that you're not dependable.
Yes.
I have to do this on my own.
Yes.
You're in the same fucking plane as me, and like, doesn't he not even know that there's a baby in there?
No, he doesn't know. He doesn't
Exactly.
know. He doesn't.
That-
she
that-
didn't tell him. Yeah.
I like that because it's like, I mean, that whole thing's a little weird too. I don't know. So
Yeah, I
when
know,
she
yeah.
gets on the plane, he sees her,
yeah.
not knowing she's going to get on the plane,
Right.
and it's just like, no
Yeah.
one's going to know that I know this girl.
Right. Well, because remember he left her because he didn't want to be involved with her anymore, and blah blah blah. So like all of that like kind of like makes
It's
sense.
a little bit, the whole thing, the whole plot, it's
Yeah.
a little teeny tiny bit convoluted.
Oh,
A
agreed.
little too much going on, but
yeah, agreed.
overall, it works.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but to my point that I just made, it's very cool that her whole
Mhm.
the movie opens when she's beyond able to get help from a man,
Right.
where she's just already just
Yeah.
like,
taking it.
this is what I have to do.
Yeah. Taking it into her own hands.
And it's
Yeah.
just cool. And dude, the other thing is like, I also, now this is just my curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't her baby's daddy, don't they say he gets shot while she's still in the Sperry?
Yeah.
But so he's dead before she ever comes back up?
No, he's not dead
Okay, exactly. I was confused.
because he's there at the end.
Exactly. So what? He got lit up and then he's fine?
Well, I think they thought because he was up in the top turret, so I don't think they know. Like he had he had the package
Right.
and like, yeah. So
And
I think
he's the one
I think
who
they just
offers
think
to
he's
take it,
down,
right?
Yes, because he like
That-
obviously knows her.
Yeah, but that only makes sense if he knows it's a baby.
No, I don't think so because she's on there and she like they all think that it's important, and so
Right.
he's
Okay.
just gonna help her out.
Right.
You know, like
I also think at the end, it's how when she comes up, everyone else dies like almost instantly.
yeah.
I don't like that.
No, I actually loved it.
Well, I don't because it's more satisfying to me
Mm-hmm.
for them to see her be a badass than for her to emerge, just get the 1 second of reaction from them, and then instantly they're dead. I would rather have them witness her be the fucking badass that she always could have been from the beginning. Like when the first guy, the creepiest guy,
Yeah.
I don't know why I said first, but when the guy, he's like in the back and he like looks at her,
Yeah.
he gets like the most not crazy face-to-face screen time with her.
Right.
Because he's holding the gun, and I forget what he says, but it's really interesting. And,
Yeah.
and I wanted to see, I wanted to see him witness her, and then that very second he's dead.
See, I think though that works though because like you're not going to change people who are like that. You're not going to change their mind. You know?
Yeah,
Like
but
it doesn't.
Yeah, but
It's almost like he's like if that's his opinion, he's not important. Get rid of him.
it's so much more satisfying to see her do what he can't do, and have him watch it happen.
Yeah.
And
but
when you say he has his opinion, he's set in his way. Oh, he's set in his ways now that he knows gremlins exist. Yeah, right, dude. Dude's questioning God. He's a Christian boy, and he's questioning God at that moment. He's not set in his ways when he meets a gremlin. But anyway,
Yeah.
totally dope movie.
Yeah. Just a fun ride to take.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put a spoiler alert in the beginning.
Yeah.
So if you neglected the spoiler alert and you haven't seen the film, you should still watch it because it's
still
dope.
do it. Yeah.
Especially if you like 80s music made today. Because I know that I do.
And planes and badass ladies.
Yeah.
And just a
Wait, one
fun,
more
creepy
Okay,
monster.
hold on. The monster, clearly modeled after bats.
Yep.
What is that thing in nature? What does it stick out of its mouth? Is that a thing that
I don't know. That was creepy.
looked like a sensory organ or something?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. It was a wicked,
But
creepy
at the same
moment.
time, it was like taunting her.
Yes.
It's like, you want some of this brain mouth?
Like that, the monster was so great. Like, you're right. Like, when you just said taunting, like, I loved, like, all of the tension between her and the gremlin. Like,
Oh, yeah.
underneath, like, it wasn't just like a straight up, like, attack. It's like almost like he didn't, it's like the monster was, like, more curious.
Oh, yeah. Because
And it, like, didn't really, like that wasn't his MO. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
he's a troublemaker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's so, like I said before, it's like he's concerned with like metal and machines.
Right,
He's
yeah.
not concerned with people.
Yeah.
Also, that movie introduced me to what I would now in my brain think would be the worst possible way to die, which would be if you were in that Sperry
yeah.
and all the screws just
Oh my God.
gave way and you
Forget it.
free fell in a metal
Forget
ball.
it. Ugh, the minute she got into that, I was like, absolutely no way.
No way, dude.
Nope.
But anyway, although it's interesting how, like, in that moment, you kind of do go, she's probably safer in the ball than she is in the
Yeah.
plane with the dickheads.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
But anyway, okay. So let's talk about Glide Path.
Oh, okay, right. Like when the music starts.
No, when the beat kicks in.
Right, that's
when the
tr-
beat drops.
So I'm not recording. You're not recording right now, right? Just
You're intimately involved with the podcast, so tell the folks when the beat drops why they should listen.
Are you ever at home and you're by yourself and you just want to feel something?
Feel it.
You want to hear something.
Hear it.
You want to listen to something that has some wholesome, good words to say. Conversation. Dreamer Nation. Space Dreamers. Listen to this podcast. Yeah, you should bring that back. We should actually write something down and like so that it sounds good, because like this is actually like a really
Much less exciting story. Far fewer encounters
of-
with aliens.
Yeah,
Creatures.
and far fewer moments of contention. Like, there's just
Yeah, this novel is definitely just a series of scenes.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got
Yeah.
mixing up the dots,
Yep,
remember?
yep.
Which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have tracing detecting dots on the ground with people in soldier uniforms,
Yep.
testing that out. You've got a scene with a prostitute in the countryside of
Yep.
England.
Yep.
What else? You have what is, in my opinion, I don't think this is a bad novel or whatever.
No. I mean, if we want to like back it up before we get specific, like,
Well, actually, I want you to explain it, because I feel like I've tried to explain this to people because, like, I've read this book. I know about Clarke. I know about the whole RAF thing. But, like, why don't you just explain, like, what the book's about and what they're doing?
I think what the book's about is very simple. They're developing the ground control descent system, which is a radar system to help planes land when, like, there's bad weather or an emergency
Right.
that prevents the pilot from doing it visually.
Right.
Um,
And we have to say that this is World War II. This is
Oh, yeah.
in England,
yes.
right on the channel, like across from France.
Yes. And so it's a good it's a good system to have to save lives and save money, so planes don't go down all the time. But it's essentially just the story of how it's developed, like working the kinks out of it more likely. I don't know. See, that was the thing is like, I feel like I thought there was going to be more. When you told me about this book, I thought it was going to be more about the development of it. So when everything's perfectly functioning by like, chapter 4, I was like, what is the rest of this going to be like? And so basically it's implementing it and finding out like how it's going to work and what's going to get messed up and like what the problems would be with it. It's like putting the system into action and then figuring out the good and bad. Like how, like,
Yeah, so I think while I was reading, I think the ending made me realize what the book is about. And I'll explain. So the book ends with a sentimental moment where he's in the truck where the Mark I was housed. And I think so with that moment, I didn't realize while I was reading the book because it's not that engaging.
Right.
But when it ends, you realize that it's about the final stage of testing a product before it gets mass produced.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Okay, yeah.
Because the Mark II, because that's kind of the thing at the end, he's like, this is no longer my like domain. It is now going to be used by, like the Australians, the Americans. Like this is a thing that's now going out into the world, and like it's almost like it's his baby that like hopefully I was able to mold this technology into something that will now be able to be used while I, the one who oversees everything, is not there to do it. It's almost like building a business. You know what I mean? Like because you want to be out of your business. You want to build a business so that you don't have to work in it.
Right.
So that you set up everything so that it works when you're not there.
Yeah.
That's kind of like basically what this novel's about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And my point is I didn't know that until I finished it. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
Because the novel just meanders.
Yeah, it really does. Like that's
Dude, although it does I very much remember the moment with the jet from the first time I read it. I remember getting to that moment and being like, okay, this is pretty fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. This time reading it, I forgot about if this was a movie, dude, how good of a climax would just that guy on the bike just riding, dude.
Like, I do not understand. After hearing some of the past episodes, that you talked about, like with Heather, and then some of the, even the other novels that like we've read, like, why haven't more of his books been turned into films? Like, this would be such a good film.
I think 2001 ruined it, dude.
You think so?
What the fuck? How are you gonna like? You can't attach that name.
Yeah.
You just and then, dude. 2010 was a movie, and it's not good.
Yeah.
And it just
this book is screaming to be made into a movie. People would love this movie. I would love this movie. It would be so good because everything that goes on in the book is like you could add more like tension and build more interest visually, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I don't know, it's just bizarre to me.
I mean,
why
It's weird that this is like a World War II novel, but it was written in the 60s.
Yeah.
We're reading it in the 2020.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's weird.
It's the whole thing is, and it's funny because it's like while the book isn't necessarily, the book is good. The novel is good. It's not like fascinating, but like the things that it's about are fascinating.
Yeah.
Like even just when I first started reading it, I was like, I can't believe that like people had to land planes all the time with just their eyeballs.
Yeah,
and some dials.
And you have to consider too, I mean, it's like technology that probably would have been invented anyway, but the whole point is because they're in war.
Right.
Where it's like if you do a bombing run, you do it at night.
Yeah.
so it's harder to see.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas if you're just operating an airport
Yeah.
and it's too rainy, you just cancel flights.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't cancel a bombing run. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like,
And there's also, like, I mean, I remember they made a good deal, like, you know, like, yeah, we don't want to lose lives, but it is war. But what we really want to do is save money. We don't want to, like, destroy these planes all the time. Because,
Right,
like, lots of times they would land, the person would be fine, like, the pilot would be fine, but the airplane would be trashed.
Right.
And, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, wars are very, very expensive.
oh, yeah.
You know? So, like, it's just, like, it's just it's so wild to read books about World War II.
I agree.
You know, I mean, I know this. I mean, this is fictionalized, but it's based on real things, and
Dude,
it's just amazing.
Every time I get like a taste of some type of World War II fiction,
Mm-hmm.
or even like nonfiction, although it's not what I'm trying to dive into, I'm just not surprised that like World War II buffs
right?
are so like, because if you just learn all these different things that create a full picture
Right.
that I don't think any one person could ever fully have.
Yeah.
Like, you can't read all the books in the world about World War II and you don't have a memory good enough to like hold them all. But my
Right.
point is, remember they mentioned how the Mark I was created in America and they had to fucking bring it over to England.
Mm-hmm.
That's the movie Greyhound. Because they talk about it.
Oh,
remember
you're
they
right.
mention it.
The
They're
convoy.
like
Yep.
they're like, this is really
Yep.
insane technology and it's really, really, really
Yes.
expensive and special and
Yes.
one of a kind, and like any old U-boat
So-
could have sunk it.
Exactly. But they needed, yeah, okay, that's so crazy. And then there's the whole part about his, Alan is the main character, Alan Bishop. His father was a ferry operator.
Right.
And then his
Dunkirk.
his
That's
boat
that whole movie.
was used in Dunkirk. And it's just there's so many facets.
Dude, and imagine like we have our veterans here, right? Like
Yeah.
our grandfather, like people, but like imagine if you lived there.
Yeah.
And your whole life and your whole history was there, either in whatever,
Yeah.
like France, dude,
Right.
England, Poland, any of those places. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a thing that happened over in Europe. It's a thing that happened
Yeah.
where you live.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy.
And
And then not to mention, I mean, you know, everybody thinks about, you know, the Holocaust and the concentration camps, but that's the other thing that's so wild and really difficult to think about, that the entire time that the events of this book are taking place, like not far away, people were like starving and dying and being tortured. It's just, you know, and like they're making, you know, like jokes and, you know, visiting brothels and like it's so wild.
There's a couple moments while I was reading the book where that did like a little bit kind of bothered me,
Yeah.
where I was like, these guys are not, they don't seem like they're in war.
Right.
But at the same time, like, but it's okay. The first thing I think when I think like that my opinion has any hold on what happened in World War II, I think, well,
Right.
it's just such a massive conflict. I don't have the ability to like to know
Right.
whether that was realistic or appropriate or inappropriate, especially because when you're in the
Right.
middle of it, you don't know that you're in the middle of the greatest conflict ever, and that
Right.
people in 2020 will be
Right.
talking about it like it's this crazy thing.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's emphasized when the character and I love, like, to me it's like we can sit over here and we can talk about things that we're not necessarily involved in, but over there it's like I love when the character refers to Hitler as a bully.
Yeah.
Like when it must be an American talking to a British person.
Right.
When he's like, well, if you guys had kept an eye on that bully down
Right,
there, we wouldn't
right.
have to be in this situation.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the time you're like, it could go any way.
Yeah.
But now we know where it went.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And I think it's a little more complicated than hindsight is 2020. You know?
Agreed.
Because when you're in it,
Absolutely.
because even if if you're in it, I mean, it's a world war. The whole world.
Yeah.
There's no way you can know,
Right.
especially as a person in 2020, like really anything
Yeah.
about that
No.
that conflict.
Right.
Or at least about how people should act.
Yeah.
I know the facts, but
Mm-hmm.
the mindset, can
Is-
only imagine.
Yeah.
And again, it was different for everyone, man.
Right.
Like, you could have been, I mean, like, you could be a family in the United States. You have 2 kids or something, and your husband goes to war.
Mhm.
You don't see any bloodshed.
Yeah.
You don't see any war, but your
Yeah.
husband dies in war. That's a horrible time for you,
Yeah.
you know? So everyone all over the world is suffering just in different ways.
Yeah. It's wild.
So I guess the point of that rant was just to say that I caught myself wondering, like, why are these people being this way? It doesn't seem like the way they should be. But then at the same time, then I would revert to, well, I don't know how
Yeah,
they should be. So
exactly.
this is just the way the
Right.
novel was written. And it was written by a person who was in World War II.
Yeah, definitely.
So it gives it
Like,
even more credit.
Right.
Another thing, that's something we should mention. I don't know how much the plot reflects real life, but that
Yeah.
was Clarke's role in World War II.
Yeah. It's so wild.
He tested that technology.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I really love this. I really love this novel as yet another perspective, yet another facet. You know, there are aspects of World War II that our culture and our media and film and books are obsessed with, and you get those all the time.
Right.
And this is a different one, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see World War II from really any perspective, but in Americans. Like, this is just my opinion, but
Yeah.
like, I used to think Saving Private Ryan, I might have said this, Saving Private Ryan, in my opinion, is like the greatest World War II movie ever made.
Mm-hmm.
But really, again, that's just an opinion, so it doesn't matter. But really,
Yeah.
now I think, and really what that is it's, in my opinion, it's the greatest World War II movie ever made by Americans.
There you go.
From an American perspective.
Right.
Whereas there's just other films and even like books like this one,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So anyway, well, let's talk about the jet part. Dude, I'm totally down to make this a short episode. It's Space Streamers. It's not a sci-fi novel. I mean, that's one thing. If you haven't noticed, this is
I
literally
know.
Clarke's only non-sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
But it's a science novel. Really.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Okay, can we actually talk about another thing?
What?
Again, I don't know. I'm not Clarke. It would appear to me that Clarke has no ability to write in any other style than the way Clarke writes. Wouldn't you think that maybe you would apply like a different voice or a different structure or something to this?
It's exactly the.
He
yeah,
writes
it's
the same in like
Yeah.
every novel, dude.
Yeah.
It's weird. You know?
Yeah.
Another
It
thing.
is weird.
Okay, another thing. I've talked about this before. Just because I noticed it in here. You know how I say before everything's segmented in Clarke novels, like characters like like when the dude knocks over the thing in the climax, like he should have been a character before he did the one thing that he was there to do. Not a character, but mention him, dude. Have him run into someone. Have him say good luck on your flight.
Oh, right.
The moment he's introduced is the moment that, like, you already know something bad happened. Because the chapter before it ends with Alan saying he never would have guessed what really had happened.
Oh, right.
So then you know that the next chapter is going to be whatever happened. And then, but at,
right,
that moment,
yes.
you're introducing a character. It's like you should have done that before. I'm not saying in every instance, but I'm saying it's just another example where it's like it's just segmented. It's broken up.
Yeah, and that little lead-in thing that you just mentioned, like he does that a lot. Where like
Yeah, but usually it's when it's about space, it's beautiful and it's amazing.
yeah, but I actually think that's like it. You know, we talk about gimmicks often. Like I think that's like a little gimmick. Like you know how it's like
Yeah.
like you leave it like out there.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then
It's-
you're just
it's-
like, oh, I know something's coming.
But he would think of something.
Yeah,
That's the best one. Well, actually, no, because that's only good because
No.
it repeats.
yeah,
Forget I said that.
yeah. No,
But
because
I
I know
know
I've
he-
noticed. Yeah,
he
like,
does it all the time, and usually
like-
it's awesome.
Yeah, like that. It's like it's foreshadowing, but it's blatant foreshadowing.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's funny. It's definitely funny.
Let's talk about the jet part because God, I fucking love that part. And you know what's weird, dude? I remember it being better than I think my imagination just fucking fired on all cylinders when I read that for the first time.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if it was in a movie, it would be such an amazing moment
I
in a
know.
movie, dude. But it would be very reminiscent and I would love it if it was filmed like this, like the first scene in Shadow in the Cloud.
Yeah.
How she's on that runway.
Right.
And you just see big ass, beautiful hunks of metal on wheels with
Right.
wings just emerging from the fucking
Fog.
The fog, yeah. It just looks so cool, dude.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of parts of this that like I just want to I wanted to see it,
Yeah.
visually see it. Like even when they're climbing up the radar
Oh,
towers.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that's a whole
Like,
scene. That's just
that-
a scene.
Yeah, I
Jesus
know.
Christ.
But at least that was interesting, but it was there was no real point. But it would have been made more of an impact if you had seen it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know, because actually it helped. I looked. There were definitely things because I knew that unlike a lot of Clarke stuff, you have to completely use your imagination. I was able to look up certain things and just looking up those towers, I was like, oh, that would be really visually cool.
Yeah, especially because back then, you don't think about how recent skyscrapers are.
Yeah.
And I like that idea of certain old technologies at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When the locomotive was invented,
Mm-hmm.
that was far and away the fastest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
If you rode on that, you were like, yeah, I've been on the fastest thing on the planet, dude. What have you done? You're still riding a horse? You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas in this, it was just cool. Because when you're at the top of that thing, I don't remember the details, but it's probably one of the tallest structures in the world at the time.
Probably.
You know what I
It's
mean?
Pretty high.
The Empire State Building was there, but skyscrapers weren't a thing. You know? I do. Let's just end it. Let's just talk about that jet part.
Yeah.
Because I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Do you love it?
It was really, I had no, I the reason why I loved it is because I had no idea what was going on. And then there's that one line that was just this is the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what happens is it is a particularly stormy, shitty weather day or night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the weekend, which again, that goes into our nonchalantness.
Yeah.
How he's like, it's the weekend and this is a training camp. It's dude, we're at war.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's the weekend?
Yeah, but it was a 9 to 5.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the weekend. There aren't there aren't any of the people. Okay, so let's also explain the WAAF are these women
Yes.
who you need 3 of them to track all the different things that planes do. It's explained in the novel. I'm not going to get into too many details, but they're operating everything. They're the
Yes.
ones who do all the work.
This is the thing that I was talking about before is the treatment of the WAAF operators, the women, in this novel is horrific.
Why is it horrific?
Because, hold on. Here are two quick examples, right?
I mean, I don't think it's good, but I don't know if horrific.
No, I think it's terrible.
Okay.
So, first of
I
all,
probably just don't remember. Hit me.
First of all, not a single one of them.
Has dialogue?
No, they have dialogue. Not a single one of them has a name.
Okay.
That really bothered me. They're so I knew from the beginning, because this is a thing an issue sometimes I have with Clarke novels is he lists he gives so many names, so many characters that I'm just and I get confused if I've met them before or not. So for this one I was because I knew it was going to be technical, I was I'm just going to write these people's names down. So you get everybody, Pat, Howard, Benny, whatever, right? But not these women that they work so closely with, who are absolutely responsible for the complete operation of this technology, are never given a name. There are only 3 of them. He doesn't give them names.
There's not only 3 of them.
In the beginning, there are only 3 of them. So remember, that's why I said Pat, Howard, Benny.
Right.
Is that those are the 3 helper guys, right? There's the head scientist, there's his,
Right.
deputy, and then later even you get introduced to the pilots, you get introduced to but they never get a name, right? Yet at the same time, this is what they said. He says, Alan says, "That was nothing," retorted Alan with spirit. "Just now it flew backward when a certain American scientist was tracking." "Touché," said Dr. Went. "Maybe we'd better leave it to the girls. They've only a couple hours of runs and they're better than us already." That was almost true, but it was not particularly surprising. These WAFs were highly trained operators who had spent hundreds of hours tracking echoes on every type of ground radar in the RAF. They could take this job in their stride, right? So he says that how important they are, right?
Yeah.
And how skilled they are and how fabulous they are, right? Like literally the next page. Suddenly, one of the WAFs gave an excited squeak. "Are you kidding me?" "I've got him on elevation," almost at once another said. "I have him on azimuth." Like, so it's like he builds them up and then he rips them down. You know, they squeak. They brought their knitting. You know, they're obsessed with the pilots. Like, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. Like, these are incredibly smart, really good at their job women, and you can't even bother to call them, you know, Sue, Betsy, and Dot. Like, it really bothered me. And I mean, there are like a bunch of other examples of it throughout the book, just of like, you know, attitudes towards women in general.
Yeah.
But that particular thing really bothered me. Like, they're more skilled than Alan.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that like the theme of like the 20th century? That women were the ones doing all the work behind the scenes.
Right.
And didn't get any credit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, at least
so,
Clarke
like,
gave them credit. I mean, I get the name thing, but I mean,
right. Like, it's just, I mean, yeah, like they're, you know, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's just, it really, like, you'd think that in this situation where you guys are all doing the same thing with the same goal, that you could even possibly think of them as equals, but to not even give them names.
Yeah.
It bothered me.
I mean, I agree with you in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
but I think by the end, isn't the idea that it's like a rotating, like whoever's on is just who's going to do it.
Well, so...
Because that's the whole point of the thing, is that it starts out little and then it grows into this thing where...
Yeah, but even at the very end of the novel, remember, like, the guy who talks at the very end with the guy racing the bicycle, even that guy has a name. Even the guy who's talking them down, he has a name. Like, everyone has a name except for the women.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree.
Like, and I mean, obviously, like, you know, like, then there are other, you know, like, they don't give names to the trainees and stuff. But, like, it's just wild that at first the crew of people only comprises of the lead scientist, the deputy, the three guys, Devereaux, Alan, right? The pilot, McGregor. McGregor's the one that shows up with the three WAFs. Every single one of those people I can name, but the women never got a name.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Well, I think maybe...
There's no excuse for it.
Well, I think you should be mad that they don't have names because they're not characters.
They are characters.
By description only, it sounds like.
No, they're talked about often.
Okay. But if they had more to do, then I'm sure they would have names. They have
more to do than Benny.
Yeah, but what okay, what they're doing is not, you're literally turning knobs and staring at a screen. Like, that's literally what they're doing. What?
But that's just what he said. They're like, none of those guys can do that as well as those women because they didn't have the training.
I know.
So that's a really important part of the whole operation. That's what I'm saying. Like, singularly, they're not important. But so singularly is the guy who does the actual talking down. He can't do his job without those three women doing their job and doing it really, really well.
So what I'm saying is what I'm getting from what you're telling me is that they should just be more fleshed out.
Absolutely.
Rather than just they need names.
Well, I'm saying that would have been a start.
Okay.
You know, I mean, because they have dialogue, they have a role, they sit in the truck with all the other guys. They should have at least been given names.
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the jet scene?
Yeah, I know. Sorry,
Okay.
I do.
No, I agree. I just
It's just funny because it's like
not good to minimize the things, but you're right. There are too many fucking names in Clarke novels.
Yeah,
I don't want three
totally.
more.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have gotten rid of Lucille. You could have gotten rid of the other prostitute.
Yeah, I know.
You could have gotten rid of Olga. I don't need
Right.
any of that shit.
Yeah, none of it.
Like, and then I mean, Olga was kind of interesting at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
She was a total badass.
Right. Like hearing
Yeah.
about her character arc. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that jet part? I'll just explain it.
Yeah.
Because I know it pretty well.
Okay, good.
All right, so
Do you ever feel like there is something else? An outward road from Earth? Is our destination here on Mother Gaia or on the other side of the sky? The veil that protects us. Protection can be overbearing and constricting. So if Babe wants to grow up, Babe must leave the cradle. Join your host, Jared Parisi, the dreamiest of the space dreamers, and travel with him on the road to enlightenment via the golden age of science fiction. A new episode of Space Dreamers podcast is released every Thursday on iTunes, Spotify, and all the major podcast channels. Dream away, Space Dreamers.
it's a training camp. They're training to learn how to use this ground GCD talk down situation. So they're closed on the weekends, and everyone's not there.
Yeah.
So the ever important WAAF operators are not there. So, and again, dude, this is all explained in this chapter. That the reason they're in a bind is because those women aren't there.
Yeah.
So, there's an airplane that's up in the sky and it's flying around, but it's on like a top secret mission, and it basically calls them, and it's like, we can't land where we were gonna land. We have 15 minutes of fuel. Can we please land on your airstrip?
Yes.
And they say to him, like, the weather's really bad. Yeah, we're here to do this talk down thing, but none of our staff are here. No one's here to do it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, well, we literally have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it says that he's flying a prototype, which even more so increases the value
absolutely.
of the aircraft.
Right,
That
yeah.
it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, like, it's a really intense chapter. There's a lot of details into the decision making, and so eventually they see, yeah, I mean, what's the choice? We're going to have to try. So they bring this plane in. Oh, and they do mention that it's moving way too fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a jet.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, why is this thing moving so fast? I don't know. So then it lands, and I love that moment. Oh, it's raining really, really, really hard. I love that moment where it lands, and it's like their job is done.
Yeah.
So they run outside. They're like, we got to see this thing.
Yeah.
Like, what did we just talk down?
Yeah.
And it's like this really rainy, like you can't even see 10 meters in front of you. And then out of the gloom comes a jet-propelled airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And during World War II, that's not it's top secret. It's a prototype. So the thing
Yeah.
hadn't been invented yet.
Right.
They're only in airplanes propelled by spinning propellers.
Yeah.
And like gasoline, like an engine.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like the whole, there's just so many things happening in the scene that are interesting. Like the fact that they're not that they talk this thing down because it's the only option, but they're not even supposed to know that it exists.
Yeah.
So I love how they see it for a second in
Yes.
the gloom, and then the next chapter it's locked in a hangar with
Yeah.
guys with guns outside. And like, we saved the bloody thing. Couldn't we
Yeah.
at least look at it?
Yes.
But what's really interesting is what they don't. And again, it's one of those things. You just have to put yourself in someone else's situation where it's like, dude, at the time, again, trains are the fastest thing in the world. To us, it's just a train. Yeah, it goes fast, but so does my friggin' Corolla.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the sound of a jet engine, like, we all know it.
That was my favorite part about this, is how they described the noises that it was making.
It's like a scream.
Yes.
Because imagine if you're in a foggy, horrendous thunderstorm, like lightning, thunder, rainstorm.
Yeah.
And out of that comes the scream of a jet that you've never
Never heard
And you
before.
don't know what it is.
You have no idea.
Oof.
It's gonna be wild.
You got to wonder like what that thing looked like. I bet you could look it up.
Yeah, I'm
Figure
sure.
out what, like the OG jet.
It's
like.
the very last little paragraph of chapter 17, because I wrote in my notes that chapter 17 was the best chapter in the entire book.
Definitely.
And it says, oblivious to the pouring rain, even forgetful of what they had just achieved, Alan and his companions remained staring along the empty runway. In that moment, they knew that the age of the propeller was coming to its end. The sound still echoing in their memories was the voice of the future.
Yes.
Like, oh.
It's like one of the few parts in this novel that Clarke gets to flex those
yes,
poetic engineer muscles.
Totally. The whole, like, as far as just like story writing, he did such a good job with this whole part of it, because it's like, not only was it a crescendo for like Alan, not only was it the main character, not only was it a crescendo for the technology, but then you add in that future aspect, like with the jet, and you're just like, dang.
Especially because we know, because it was written in the 60s,
right,
and we're in the 21st century,
right? You already know. Yeah,
the author knew.
Yes.
So the author knows, so he's playing to your sensibilities, and the fact that you know that it's the future.
Exactly.
So it just makes it that much more impactful.
That was a really like, like, I know sometimes we give fault for, the storytelling, but like that was like, that was awesome.
There are clear moments, and that's the most obvious one, where there is actual tension in this novel. And I think all the different scenes that I mentioned do it to varying degrees.
Right.
Usually not very good.
Yeah.
But like even like the plane at the climax was like, there was no tension in the climax, dude, because that whole thing had been done throughout the whole novel. So it's like, I know that they can do this. Like, it's already been proven in several scenes that this is a thing that is possible.
And also, he even says it, like, if they can't land there, they can just go land somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, like they'll just be diverted to another airfield. So it's like it literally took everything, you're right, away.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only awesome part was the guy racing the bicycle down the middle of the runway.
That part was so, and I loved how, and that would be so, dude, okay, this would be that scene in the movie, right?
Yes.
So it would be, it's really just like a moment. So it would be like, the guy would be he'd be like on the phone, he'd be like, you like, get that ripped dude who bites a bike really fast. But they wouldn't show him. And then it would show his screen, and you would see the dot moving. And then it would cut to him racing in the rain.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And or the audience maybe doesn't even know what the dot is.
Right.
And then it would cut to a guy riding with the fucking flames on either side of him, dude.
Oh,
and like
my
and a shining strip of starlight above him.
Totally.
Dude, it would be
so cool.
But
so cool.
That'll probably never happen.
Yeah. But like even all the scenes, like, like as like even all the scenes like in the van, where the, control room is, like just the fact that it's like in like a mobile van, like that would just be great. And then like just to see like everything like illuminated by like the green, and like to see like all the people, and like I could see like, like the movie, like, cutting between like, the faces of people to the screens to like what's going, like it would be, there would be so much, there would be so much visual tension.
Right.
It would be so good.
Yeah. It would be, and you could have like sidekick characters. Like I get like a Twister vibe. You know how there's all those like side like '90s character actors.
Yes,
you
totally.
just have like funny dudes on the side.
Oh, 100%. All of them would just be great. Like Pat, Benny, Howard. Like those are like the guys who are just like, tinkering around with like all the, because they're just like the brunt workers, like splicing wires together and like installing things. Like they could be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious.
This should definitely be made into a movie. And I mean, with all the with like all the themes that are in it, I don't know why it hasn't.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it's
especially
so strange.
Dominique mentioned too that all he had to do is pay a fee, and they didn't
you've
they didn't even
before.
check his work.
Yeah, it would just be so awesome. Like you could make this into a blockbuster. You could 100% make this into a blockbuster.
I mean, the right director, I feel like, could turn anything into a blockbuster.
I know, but you've got like all the. I mean, what was the movie?
People will be like, "Well, I thought this was a war movie."
What was the movie about? It was the same thing about. I can't remember what it was called. About the guy who, the code breaker.
The Enigma machine. Wait, what?
Yeah, and it was like a
With Benedict Cumberbatch.
Is that who?
The Imitation Game.
Yeah.
That movie sucked.
Is that what it was?
It won a bunch of Oscars. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though.
That
but
does not mean it was good.
No, I'm not saying it was good. I'm saying this could be the same thing, like World War II technology.
Yeah, I hear you. Period
got
piece.
planes,
Yeah,
period piece. Like people would like go crazy over this.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was a good book. I enjoyed reading it. I had my moments where I was like, like, oh come on, let's get this going.
Yeah.
And then I had other parts where I was like, oh, this is really exciting, or like I was really intrigued. I think he did a fairly good job with tying in like the personal stuff. Like we sometimes talk about how Arthur C. Clarke has a hard time with like human connection.
Dude, what about the part when he's leaving? And he just mentions how he sees that guy running with a piece of paper towards him.
Yes.
And then he gets home and he realizes
Yes.
that guy had a telegram telling him that his dad was dead.
Yeah.
And that's where he was going to go
Yeah.
visit his dad.
Right.
That was really good.
Yeah. And like that's the thing is like everything with him and the woman Miss Hadley, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So like all of that was very interesting, like
Yeah.
like the backstory with him and his father, and like and then how it like played into like his relationship with then Lucille, who like it wasn't like really interesting, but like I think it was done well,
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like and then at the like I just thought that like it just added to Alan as like a fuller character,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't because like and lots of times like you don't have that, and I think it worked.
I thought especially the stuff with his dad was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it you're right. It built his character, because
right.
that was like a turning point. I don't remember exactly, but at the end of that chapter, like, his dad dying is like him flipping the page of his, next chapter of the
Right.
book of his life.
Right.
And there's that great moment. It was like, there's no more terrible noise or whatever than the sound of dirt upon a coffin.
Yeah.
Like it just in the middle, it just gets real like,
Right.
somber.
Yeah.
And like the only death in the movie is completely not war related.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this book. If you're a casual Clarke fan, don't read it. If you've read a lot of Clarke and you need more Clarke, you should read it.
Yeah.
Or if you're really interested in like science and technology and radar,
Yeah.
like there's that whole generation of like people at that time were like built their own radios. Like
Yeah.
if you're into that stuff,
Right.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Like this is definitely not a book I would ever pick up on my own. There's nothing about this that I would be, not even like you just said, not even the fact that Arthur C. Clarke is attached to it. I would read the synopsis and I'd be like, I'm good. No thanks.
I've read the back cover of that book so many times,
Yeah.
dude, being like, nope.
But that being said, having read it, I'm glad that I did.
Nice.
I think it's a very interesting story about a very interesting, period in time. And I think Clarke did a really good job with the main character and how the story is told, and, maintaining interest in something that might not be that interesting. So it is weird. Like I would never pick it up, but I'm really glad that I did.
Yeah, and I would say one of my critiques of A Fall of Moondust is that it doesn't really have a main character.
Yeah.
So this certainly, I mean, whether Alan is a good or bad or great or terrible
Right.
main character, he's at least very much the main character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is nice.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I guess that's it. I guess I'll ask, how did it compare to the Deep Range? Because this one came after, so he's probably a better writer, and neither are about space. I mean, obviously, I think the Deep Range is much better, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, see, that's what's funny is that I think that I felt connection to the Deep Range. Like I felt like, I don't know, like I was in it. I was there.
I remember what you said during the episode. You said that you could easily picture everything that you could relate to that because you're,
Right.
Pacific Ocean, islands, dolphins, all these things. But World War II,
Yeah.
We
And-
just got done talking about how alien that is to us.
Right. And that's the thing. But I actually feel like, though, like structurally wise, like as a book goes, I do see that this one's superior.
I agree too, because that's another thing I realized not until I was in the last chapter. Is it's like the book opens with him being informed of and then traveling to
Yeah.
his new job
Right.
at GCD.
Right.
And then the last chapter is him on his last day saying goodbye, moving
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. So that's what's so funny is that I think like, that's why I say like this is a really good. It's cohesive. It's well written. It's well put together. It has everything. It's just again and like it's not that the subject matter isn't interesting once you're in it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I don't know. This book is definitely a conundrum in many ways for me.
Yeah. I have now read it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I have no intention to ever read it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
it's good. It's good. It's a good story.
Yeah. I mean, if it appeals to you, check it out. If it doesn't, don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that about wraps it up. So, next, Amy, listen.
What?
I had a little text exchange.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, yesterday.
Yeah.
Made me very jealous.
What?
But now I can take part.
What?
Or partake. I texted Heather. I said, Heather,
Yeah.
are you reading 2001? I go, you start 2001? She goes, yes. And I go, you get past the monkeys? She was like, yes, I just got past them. I was a little confused. Like, is this right? That's what she said. But the reason I'm jealous is Heather's been reading 2001 past few days.
I know.
And I've been reading Glide Path.
I know.
So now
I know. We can all
partake or
Yes.
take part. So I believe Mallory's listening to the audiobook, which I think will be dope to have that perspective.
Absolutely.
I wonder who's reading it, but
I don't think it's anybody. Like it's like
some professional
it's nobody like
book reader person.
Yeah, I don't.
And then we're going to have a first time. Well, Heather's going to read 2001. I'm sure that she'll have the most interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
She's only read A Fall of Moondust and a few short stories by Clarke.
Mm-hmm.
And A Fall of Moondust, as we went over in that episode, is very accessible regardless of whether you're down with science fiction or not.
Mm-hmm.
2001, however, is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ridiculously not accessible, but
Mm-hmm.
Clarke is such a good writer and he's a pretty easy writer that the technical stuff I think will be okay.
Yeah.
And then you're reading it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading it again.
Yeah.
And if all goes according to plan, we'll have 4 people.
Yes.
Which is the amount of mics my thing will allow.
Perfect.
So that's going to be exciting.
Definitely.
And then we'll do an episode after that about the movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad thinking back on it. Like, did you watch the movie or read the book first?
This is my whole story. I watched the movie first. Remember?
That's right. It's funny that you mentioned the monkey thing because I, a long time ago, tried to watch that movie. Couldn't get past the monkeys.
Yeah, me too. When I was,
and I was like,
in
"What
high
am I
school.
doing?"
Yeah,
I was when I was in high school too when I first did that, and then you watched the movie, read the book, and sent me a copy of the book. You were like, "You have to, you have to read this," and I did. I read it, and I was like, "Get out of here!"
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie, and I was like, "Get out of here!"
Yeah, dude, I have distinct memories of reading 2010.
Yeah.
At my college, like on this bench that was right on this huge pond.
Yeah.
And it was like never a happier time, you know, because I don't know. It was just, well, and the reason I say that, not just because like nostalgia, but like I hadn't read the books before.
Right.
So I was just in this totally beautiful place.
Yeah.
Reading what I didn't know at the time would become my favorite book series ever.
Right.
Isn't
that funny? Like, the thing, like, not just like we've talked about before, like about how when I'm reading something, like I'll come up with a mental picture of part of it. Like I might not remember the whole book or whatever, but I'll remember that picture in my mind. But what we haven't talked about is like the things like that you just said, like when you just talked about that, like sometimes when you're reading things, you remember the time and the place. And I remember getting into 2000, like the 2001, then 10, then 3, like the series part. I remember going to that bookstore and like searching through like the Arthur C. Clarke section and like being like, ooh, which one should I read now? And like, I just remember like, and it was a used bookstore. I remember it was in Jacksonville. Like, I just remember that time in that place. And it was like really exciting.
Yeah.
You know?
Wait, there was one story that I was just going to tell. What the heck? Something about, oh yeah. Okay. Dude, I even remember because I went to the library. I rented 2001. Like I remember that physical book.
Yeah.
It was hardcover. It didn't have a jacket, and it was blue.
Yeah.
And the spine was like black. And the first picture I ever put on Instagram was a picture of that book.
Get out of here.
With my iPod Touch. This is in like 2009, maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. But yeah, I remember that. And I remember, like, you don't realize, or maybe I was lucky that my college had a good library because all those things are just there for you to do. Like, I mean, you're paying tuition, but
yeah,
you could just, all that stuff is just there for you to fuck with and enjoy.
Yeah. And discover and get excited about. And
like, I hear often people, like, sometimes Heather mentions how if in her book club they're reading a new book, it's impossible to get it because at the library everyone wants it because it's new.
Right.
Nobody wants to read 2001. Nobody wants to read Arthur C. Clarke at Keene State College in 2008.
It's just sitting there.
I was reading them all, dude. It was amazing. So anyway, yeah, next time we're going to be talking about 2001. Hopefully it won't be boring. It won't be.
It's
It's
it
actually,
be.
because we have Heather who's like new. Okay, yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
All right. So please join us next time. Please leave me a 5-star review if you would like to. I don't know if you can do that on Spotify, but if you listen on Spotify, rate it, whatever is the highest you can. And check me out on Instagram at the Space Dreamers. I guess that's it.
I think so.
Over and out.
There you go.
Well, there you go, Space Dreamers. Thank you so much for joining me this time. Weird little episode, I know, not science fiction, but we found a way to discuss science fiction with the totally awesome movie Shadow in the Cloud. So first of all, I want to thank my gracious co-host, Amy, for joining me and listening to my mad ravings about Gremlins and jet-powered aircraft from the 1940s. I have to give a huge shout-out to Kevin Lesage for going above and beyond in creating all of the music that you hear in this podcast. Please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes if you feel like it. Join me next time. This is kind of a special episode because we are covering 20 novels by Arthur C. Clarke, and this is number 10. So kind of, sort of, we're halfway through the Arthur C. Clarke bibliography. Not really halfway through the podcast because there are bonus episodes thrown in there, and but kind of exciting that we are now halfway through. And next time we talk about a novel, it's going to be the novel 2001: A Space Odyssey. So obviously you gotta just tune in for that one. All right, thank you so much for joining me once again, and bye-bye, keep dreaming.
This has been a Sumadre production. Thank you for joining us.